Hey everyone, I'm Luke Moyle, and today I'll be taking you through my week 9 to 10 breakdown. First up, I'll just be doing a little bit of talking about my feedback that I received for my mid-semester report. I completely agree and completely just didn't think about this, but although I have talked about my character and how he has a big mystical backstory, I've never actually written it down. So, although I don't have enough time to read it all out here, I do have a quick sort of summary of the first part of his life, sort of up until the point of the scene. And he does have a backstory that continues after the scene, but it isn't really relevant to, this scene. So yeah, this here is his backstory. I'm not going to read it out because that'll take too long. Feel free to press pause and read it in your own time. Number 2 is some lighting, going through my different lighting stages. I found it really easy to sort of quickly hone in on the lighting style that I wanted for this scene because, well, it's an underground dungeon where, in fact, it is set in the medieval times, so there isn't very many options as to, light this scene. There's no hole to show out to the moonlight or sunlight or anything. It's sort of limited only to the iron sconces or the big torches on the walls. So as you can see, my first image was actually on the top right, was actually my very first test. I was really hoping to only need to light it with a couple of torches, but of course not the case. It was very, 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 very dark. In the second one, I added a large area light off to the left. You can sort of see it in this image here, just poking through the roof just there. That sort of added just a great amount of just soft lighting from the left side and sort of keeping that right side of him obscured. In the third image, because I went back to my peers as well as some friends outside of school, and they said that it's way too dark. So I actually put in you can just see it in this picture here, this square along this wall. Is actually another area light, although it's only being keyed to light up Eblis. So, he looks a little bit brighter between the two scenes. As for the fourth scene, people said it was still a little bit too dark, so I added this very large, soft, sort of area light in front to just sort of add just a little bit more light over the top of everything, and I think it turned out alright. Moving on to sort of displaying what time period my scene is. I think the old iron bars and the large lock and his hay bed and rusted iron chains, I sort of definitely think it's very well set in the medieval fantasy sort of genre. I was told that I hadn't really shown many of what my references were. Aragorn's face was a bit funky there, but these sorts of scenes of I thought Batman 1989. I really liked the introduction of Batman, where he, that big silhouetted figure. It's sort of how he's shown off in a lot of the Batman films, but it's really fun, like the dark silhouette before this mysterious character. Same as Aragorn in the scene where he's introduced. He sort of walks in and out of firelight and torchlight and moonlight, and he's sort of just partially lit at all times. And Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, he sort of flips around with his whip and knocks a gun out of some guy's hand, and the next scene is him walking out from the shade beneath the trees into the harsh sun, sort of showing his appearance and who he is after that really cool thing. You're like, ooh, this is a cool guy sort of feeling. My fourth reference is honestly Skyrim Dungeons. I really enjoyed playing Skyrim and everything back in the day, and more recently as well, and I just really like how harshly lit the dungeons are. If you're in a dark corridor such as the bottom right picture, it's very much only lit by the firelight. My inquiry, I have a pretty hard time figuring this one out, but I think a bit of a mouthful, but how introductory scenes can quickly show clues about the backstory and personality of a newly seen character. Which is more of a statement than an inquiry, but at the start of week 9, I went through and actually animated a sitting down to standing up animation. It looks a bit janky, but in the scenes that I've set up for the cameras, you don't actually see a lot of the animation, so I'm not too upset with it. Sort of, here's a reference of what it looks like when he's actually standing up. It sort of goes to here, and yeah, you see him sort of get from a sitting position and stand up, and it's a bit quick. I might need to slow that one down, but yeah, you don't really see the jankiness of after that, so I think it's a pretty good I hit it pretty well. Oh, come on, next frame. In week 10, I added a camera to slowly zoom from the front while the character walks towards it from the back. I didn't really have time to actually fully render this with lighting, so it looks a bit jankier than it will, but it looks pretty good, I think. I'm not I'm not a master at animation, but one day. Finally, in the last one is where he summons his sword in a magical flame, sort of lighting up his face. But I think I really need to extend that light just for a little bit, just so he is illuminated for a bit longer, because it sort of doesn't really get the full reaction of what I want. Yeah, but just a test animation. In the beginning of week 10, or just for that animation before with the fire, I actually modeled out his sword and gave it a quick texture. It's really dark, so you don't quite see it, but he does have a chipped bronze blade. Yeah. And finally, I have my entire test render. It's a little bit long, so I won't show it in its entirety, but you have the zoom in from the front, the same zoom from when he gets up, and as he sort of stands and walks along, it switches to him walking forwards and ends with him summoning his sword, sort of for that dramatic finale, at which point I plan on cutting to black with a whoosh sound of his sword and maybe the clattering of some metal as he, with his magical, mystical flame blade, slashes through the bars for his escape. As for what's next, I'm definitely going to finish, rendering that walking scene, as well as do the couple of little edits, as I said, about maybe the length of the lighting and lighting on his face and everything. Got a little bit to do before before the submission. Alright, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you, not next, for submission.